This recording is for the Wilton Manors Historical Society, being made by Sharon Kerwick of Mrs. Sally Crum's home and an interview with her. She's the retired principal of Wilton Manors Elementary School.
We're doing this taping today for the Wilton Manors Historical Society. I'm Sharon Kerwick. I'm a next-door neighbor to Mrs. Crum for the last 20 years. And we're talking to Mrs. Sally Crum today as the retired principal of Wilton Manors Elementary School, as well as a longtime resident of Wilton Manors. Mrs. Crum, when did you first start at Wilton Manors Elementary?
1964.
1964. And did you start as the principal there, or were you?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did you remain as the principal?
Until 1983.
1983. That's a long time.
19.
You saw a lot of changes in the school. Was the new school being constructed?
It was, the kindergarten had been built, but when I left, they were just starting the new building.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. Have you been back at all?
Yes. I was asked to come back to a reception.
Oh, I understand there was a special honor for you having been the principal for so long there. They had a ceremony.
Yes, they did. And Wilton Manors was a great place to work.
Was it? What was it like?
I had the people who, the citizens in the town backed me always. And of course I didn't want to do anything that would hurt the community.
So you had a lot of activities and participation with the community?
Yes.
Okay. In what ways did they get involved?
They used our cafeteria a lot for meetings, and so we would have fall festivals in the school, and of course the citizens would always back the proposition.
Donate things.
And it was a wonderful community.
How large a school was it when you started there?
It was
How many teachers?
maybe 700 approximately.
Okay. That's a nice size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And was that, at that time, did you live in Wilton Manors?
Yes.
In 64?
Yes.
Okay. Was that when you purchased your house?
Yeah.
You bought your house,
And
we're taping this
Mhm.
in. Okay, and what was the house you bought? Who did it belong to before? The Middletons?
It belonged to Mrs. Middleton. Her husband had been a jeweler here in
Oh.
Wilton Manors.
Not a farmer. I don't know
No.
why I thought the history had been that it was a farm.
No, he was a jeweler and had his little shop over on 26th Street.
Oh, okay.
But he had passed away when I
Purchased.
moved in here.
Now, was the houses developed at that time around here?
We bought the lot that's next door,
That my house is on?
that your house is on, and then later, several years later, the folks bought it from us and built the house.
And they were the owners of Folk Chevrolet at the time? Okay.
They were good friends of ours.
Yeah, I understand that. That's but at the community around the house was pretty much built before
Yes,
that.
yes,
Okay, I think in the 50s mostly.
mostly.
Okay, and the property that you have has a lot of pines and trees that are probably native to the area.
Yes, we had many pines. The only time that we've really lost any was when the folks built, we had to have a few trees cut back. And then in a hurricane, lightning hit one of my big trees out front. We had to have that tree taken out.
I remember you had a large greenhouse when we first moved here, as we did. Did your husband collect orchids?
That was my husband's hobby. And he had several heart attacks and had to retire from his position. And he started growing orchids, and it was a godsend.
He really enjoyed it.
He liked it. He met people who had the same interests.
Oh, that's nice.
And we went to different organization meetings and different festive things. And he had probably 200,
A couple hundred or
several hundred.
I know
orchids.
Mr. Folks did
Yes.
also.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a shared hobby with them. Now, before you lived in Wilton Manors, you originally came from West Virginia.
We lived over on 1416 Northeast 17th Terrace
Okay. In Fort Lauderdale.
in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
It was a guild house, and the Guild Construction Company had begun to build homes in that area. And my husband, as I said before, was transferred down here, and we bought one of the guild houses, and it was very respectable and a very nice neighborhood. But then when we sold it, we wanted to sell it so we'd have more land and that Sam could have his big orchid house.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so it sounds like you've enjoyed living and working in Wilton Manors.
I have. It's
It's a nice place to live.
started to say it's the love of my life, but I liked the people. I loved what I did. I had been a teacher for several years, and when I was asked if I'd be principal of Wilton Manors, I was elated. And I was principal there for 19 years.
Well, I understand that you were well loved, and a lot of your students and their children have remember you fondly.
Well, I hope so, because I think that's exactly what I felt about that. And when I go to Publix or go to some of the grocery stores someplace around and see them, they run up to me, and I've forgotten their names now. I couldn't, but they remember me. But it was really a marvelous, marvelous position.
Well, thank you for this.